Another blowout loss for the Mountaineers, but a glimmer of hope potentially. We're going to talk about what that is, what it could look like the rest of the season here this morning on Between the Eers. Hello, everybody. Good Sunday morning. Welcome back into another episode of BTE. I'm Schuyler Callihan. Thank you guys for joining us this morning. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button here on our YouTube page at West Virginia on SI. A reminder for this week, because we have the abbreviated week, we want to get everything in possible, so we're going to bump everything up a day, and we are going to have another episode of Between the Eers tomorrow as well as Tuesday, and then Wednesday we'll have the Walk Thru GameDay Show. So you really have 5 straight days of us here on the channel with the postgame yesterday. I encourage you to go check it out, see what Eugene's thoughts were on yesterday's loss. Today's episode, we have 2 more coming in the hopper, and then the Walk Thru GameDay Show on Wednesday before we have Thursday off, and then get to the action on Friday night against BYU. So, as you expected, this was not going to be a pretty game, but you would hope that maybe the defense could play well enough that you can muddy things up, drag them into a rock fight, and that maybe because of what happened last week to the Utes against Texas Tech, that they'd maybe see this as kind of, well, not they see this, but maybe this was a bit of a flat spot opportunity for them coming all the way across the country off a deflating loss at home, and it just wasn't. I mean, they were ready to go from the very beginning. West Virginia wasn't. It looked like they were confused on defense. I talked about that yesterday in my recap and on our Mountaineer Postgame show. It just felt like they were not dialed in. They were miscommunications across the board, it seemed like. Weren't getting lined up quick enough. The defense just played its worst game of the year by far. Tackling continued to be an issue. But the one thing that continues to remain a constant is the struggles on the offensive side. And I don't think that the defense is going to play like they did last night the rest of the season. I think that's just an indication how good Utah is, especially up front. And when you have a quarterback that has been comfortable in the system and is as dynamic as Devin Dampierre is, that's just kind of what you're going to get. I mean, that's one of the best teams in the Big 12 that, you know, that could potentially be playing in the college football playoff later this season. We'll see. But regardless, it's still a good football team. Unfortunately, you have more good football teams coming up, starting with BYU. But to the offense, it has to be better. You have to find some areas of success. You have to find some answers. And Jalen Henderson clearly wasn't that yesterday. And I've been saying all week, hey, don't believe this false narrative that Jalen Henderson can't throw the football and you know, just listen to the box score readers and all that stuff. And it still remains true. I'm not taking that back because he only had 7 pass attempts. He wasn't great, and I'll be honest with you, it was not a great performance for him at all. I mean, there was a reason why he struggled. And I believe he was a little bit banged up, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think that was the reason why he was replaced, but wasn't a good outing for him whatsoever, and really kind of missed opportunity for him. Now, I don't know if that means he's going to be yanked from that starting role or not, but I think when you see what Khalil Wilkins did in his small opportunity, it's hard to go anywhere else at this point. The Nico situation, yeah, you know, it's kind of that time of year, and I don't want to start saying certain things, but I just think that's probably going to end up where most people expect. So if that does end up happening, yeah, you're gonna have to lean on one of these young guys. And it's no offense to Jalen. I just think you have to find some glimmer of hope, not just for a week, but you need to, you know, not just you need to capture that and move it forward into the final 2 months of the season. You have to have something to build on going into 2026. And right now, that's the biggest issue outside of the offensive problems that they're having is you don't really have many pieces of this roster where you're like, hey, you know, they might go 4-8 this year, they might go 3-9 or 2-10 or whatever, but you're still going to have these 5 or 6 guys on offense and these 5 or 6 guys on defense that you're like, feeling comfortable with, and then you just kind of add some pieces around them in the transfer portal. That's not been the case. I mean, outside of Cam Vaughn, who are those pieces? I challenge you to find me 2 or 3 on either side of the ball, and you're going to be probably studying that for a very long time trying to find out who those guys are. So it's not just the quarterback position, but clearly Khalil could change some things. I think he did some nice things in that game. I'll get back to him here in a second, but it goes back to finding those building blocks. You've got to find guys that have multiple years of eligibility. And I'm not advocating that you just bench every guy that's in his last year, but if those guys that are in their last year are playing poorly and have continued to play poorly, you need to try to see what some of those other guys can do, specifically on the offensive line. You look at the right side, Chemo, McAnally, Tykees, Crawford, they just haven't played good football. They just haven't. It's not to say they can't. It's not to say they can't figure things out. But to this point, they have not played good football. They haven't shown that they're, any indications that they are going to get things turned around. We saw Malik Agbo yesterday. We saw Josh Isosa. We saw Donovan Haslam. I thought all 3 did some nice things. It's not to say that they're going to be the quick fix, but it could be worth taking a look at. You have a game here going, I know it's a short week, but you have a game right here before the bye week where you can get some things on tape, see what they can do, and let them learn from that for 2 weeks before going back out on the field again. At some point, you're going to have to kind of draw a line in the sand and say, look, from this point forward, we have to just find answers with our young guys. We got to understand, we got to identify who those young pieces are that can not only contribute, because that's a factor too. You got to find some guys that can just be good key backup players, but you also need to find some dudes on both sides of the ball. Defensively, you have a lot of seniors, and many of the top players on that side are seniors. They're going to be graduating. So where are those young guys at? Who are the young guys that you can build with? I don't know. Nick Taylor showed a lot of things yesterday. I was really impressed with him, and that was kind of his first serious burn. I'd have to look at the snap counts, but I don't think he had a snap count that rivaled what he put on yesterday. And he played well, played physical. Not the interception was kind of there. So I mean, he made the play, yes. So I'm not going to take that away from him, but that's not what sold me. His physicality, coming downhill, laying some lumber, making some plays, tackling really, really well, covering for the most part well. There was a couple plays he gave up, but he played really, really well. That's a bright spot. That's what you need. You need more of that. You need more Nick Taylors to pop up, not just on the defense, but specifically in that secondary, because you're going to have, a bunch of corners and safeties leaving that group after the season. So you need to have something there. But I understand the theory that, you have to earn your way onto the field, and I understand that you can't just start putting younger guys in just for the sake of it. But you need to give them more playing time. Now, like I said, it's not saying that you have to start every, sophomore, freshman, or junior on the roster, but they need to be playing more. And at the quarterback spot, let's go back to Khalil Wilkins. I know I'm kind of all over the place this morning, but it's just it's a lot to kind of take in and dish back out. But back to Khalil. He had some really nice things. And as I talked about on the post game last night, those 2 throws that he had, if he makes, I mean, his stat line looks completely different, and everyone's talking about him 10 times more than what they did than what they are right now. The 2 throws are obviously the short armed throw to Ryan Ward, the wide open tight end that would have been a touchdown. Nobody within, golly, 10, 15 yards of him. Just didn't get enough on it. And you could blame Ryan Ward too. There's enough blame for both to take some guilt. But you got to make that throw. Got to make that catch too. Earlier in that drive, he threw the comeback route to Jeff Weimer along the sideline. It was along Utah's sideline. Folks, I really, that to me, that was the most impressive play of the day for him. It really was. Go back and watch that. The timing, the anticipation, and the ball placement on that throw were beautiful. Checked all the boxes. The only one that didn't check was just didn't have enough mustard on it, just like the throw to Ryan Ward. That is what gives me some belief that he can be the guy, because to see that, to recognize that, to be able to pull the trigger when he did, that's high level stuff right there. Now, there were some things he missed on other plays in terms of reads and stuff, but that to me was one of the highlights of the day. If he makes that throw and that's a completed catch, that's one of the best throws, honestly, of the season. Yes, Nico's throwing the backyard brawl to Barnes in the end zone and a couple of others for sure, but that for that situation, a young guy coming in making a play like that would have been up there for sure. Then you also had the throw over the middle of the field to Weimer, where just put it a little too far for him to reach out and grab it. So that could have been another touchdown. There was a play he made on the move, rolled out to his left, threw it downfield. Not sure who he ended up getting it to. May have been Gallagher, but either way, completed catch. He also had the throw to Gallagher near the end zone. That was a ridiculous OPI call. I mean, yes, there's technically a little bit of an extension, but I mean that's a flop, folks. That's a ridiculous flop and should never been called. But there were things. That's why I'm saying you look at the stat sheet, and if that's all you do, you're misleading yourself. And that was the same thing with Jalen Henderson. And I understand his play hasn't been good this year, but when you look at what he's done in certain situations, it's not all on him. There were some drops. There were some miscommunications in there. There were some things that were just this far off with Jalen Henderson, and it's the same thing with Khalil Wilkins. There were some things where he was just this far off from having a 5 for 7 day or a 6 for 7 day for that matter, actually. So that's why I'm saying study the tape, or you don't have to study, but at least carefully watch the games and understand. Maybe take some note, jot some notes down, and understand. Hey, the 3 for 7 really wasn't 3 for 7. Like it says 3 for 7, but it's not as bad as it looks, if that makes sense. The 3 for 7 could have very easily been 5 or 6 or 7. And when you have the flash that he has with his legs, and you have the ability to read things the way he does, there's something there. There's absolutely something there. Now, can it be fully untapped this year? Probably not, but you need to find some level of hope at that position going into 2026, or else you're going to be back in the portal and spending money there when you really don't want to spend money there, because that's the most expensive position to spend money at, obviously. So I don't believe either that if Khalil struggles in this game against BYU, I mean, we don't even know if he's starting. I'm just kind of making this assumption at this point. So that's not official yet, by the way. But if he does get the start at BYU and he struggles, it's not the end of the road for him. That's a tough first game. It's a tough first start to have. Opponent, atmosphere, all that, short week. Like it's not easy. So don't just write him off if it doesn't go well in Provo. He's going to have a week to get rested, understand what he did, learn from it, bounce back against UCF, and see from there. But Folks, I just keep going back to you've got to find young guys that give you some hope, give you some optimism that 2026 isn't going to be kind of a repeated version of this, maybe just a little bit better. You got to find some dudes, and that's on both sides of the ball. That's at quarterback, but it's not just at quarterback. It's got to be everywhere. And right now, outside of Cam Vaughn and maybe Nick Taylor and maybe Curtis Jones Jr., who's shown some things here and there, where is it? Where is it? That's the challenge for Rich Rod and this coaching staff in these final 7 games. So that's going to do it for us here today on Between the Eers. Make sure, again, you hit that like and subscribe button here on our page at West Virginia on SI. Again, a reminder for our shows this week. We'll be back on Between the Eers tomorrow and Tuesday. The Walk Thru GameDay Show previewing West Virginia and BYU on Wednesday. And we'll have the Mountaineer Postgame Show Friday night, or I guess you could say here it'll be Saturday morning. We will have it. It will be bright and in the wee hours of the morning, maybe 2 or 3 a.m., but we'll have it up for you right when the game drops. So thank you guys for tuning in, hearing what I got to say. Go over to the website, check our stuff out. We've got a lot of content going up. We've got my Sunday morning column already up. Want you to check that out as well. Pretty much a lot of what I said here, but some different stuff in there as well. And PFF grades, snap counts, whatever, some more evaluations going on that we'll have up on the website. So go check it out. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning on Between the Eers.